Hey everyone, welcome to your next milestone project in Module 5. This is your Milestone 2 project where you are discussing sustainable solutions to your environmental issues. Now, these sustainable solutions have to have peer-reviewed articles that are discussing how this is a sustainable issue for your proposed environmental issue. So this is where you'll want to have found two really good peer-reviewed articles from the Shapiro Library or from other journal articles or government websites that are discussing this issue. When you go into the milestone worksheet, you're going to be answering quite a number of questions. So you have to make sure that the peer-reviewed articles that you have found discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the solution and its potential impact on the community. So that's kind of the parameters that you're going to have to search for. Now, I have given you an example here. This will not show up in your worksheet because this is my instructor example. So I went ahead and went out and I found an article, and I'm just working off of a topic that I gave as an example to the last time I taught this class, and it was about how lead-lined pipes are causing a water quality issue in Michigan. So I found a peer-reviewed article from the EPA that is talking about how these lines need to be replaced in this community. And so I used, that Scribber website to get my citation in APA format and posted it here. And then I talked about how I know that this resource is peer-reviewed because, and I just gave you need just like a sentence or two. If it's a journal article, it's automatically considered peer-reviewed because journals do not post information in their journal without being peer-reviewed. So you can talk about that. So because this one was from the EPA, I said it's a trusted government source. It does require peer review before they put any kind of information on their website. Like I said, if it's a journal article, which is where you should be getting it from, your information from, it's automatically peer reviewed before they ever publish it. Then you're going to post your second one. I didn't put one here because, like I said, this is just kind of to give you an example of what you should be doing. So your next peer-reviewed source, I would say you would need a peer-reviewed source that, number one, talks about the solution and why it's sustainable and how much it costs. And then your second source should be about what perhaps its advantages and disadvantages are for your community, and then what's going to happen if we don't implement the solution. So that's kind of how I would break it up. So because you are using peer-reviewed sources, you need citations here, but you also need to use Intext citations. So if we kind of look at what that would look like, I'm in here describing a sustainable solution. Typically, this is going to be, most of these boxes are going to be, you want to be as detailed as possible. So probably anywhere from 1 to 3 paragraphs, depending on your information. I would be really careful with just one, because I did that as an example here. But honestly, I could have gone into more detail with this. And so, but because this is my instructor example, I just wanted to give you guys an overview. I would do a little bit more. I would probably do about 2 paragraphs per box for most of them, because you're going to need to fully describe your information. And the more work you do here in this milestone, the less work you have to do in your final project. Because honestly, if you get a really good grade with this, most of the time you can just kind of copy it over into your final project. So I'm kind of just talking about the solution that was proposed, that they were going to replace the lead pipelines with copper pipes. And then I'm talking about why this solution is sustainable. Now, from that article that I chose here, I put a quote, and I'm supporting a claim that I'm making using an Intext citation. So remember, it's either the author or organization and the year that it was published. And so then I'm talking about in here why it's a sustainable solution. This is a pretty bold claim that the copper is 100% recyclable with no loss in properties, and the recycle rate is higher than any other engineered material. So, right, like that's a claim that needs to be supported. I need to show like where am I using my article's information, and that's what the in-text citations show. Is yes, this is where I used that article to support what I'm saying. And then how long does it take to identify a solution? This one is difficult. You may have to go and find outside information. You may not be able to find all of your information from the 2 peer-reviewed articles. You may have to use more than that. And I even kind of say that in the announcements. But you want to find something that would talk about an estimate of how long it would take to implement it. So like, for instance, in this one, it's taken up to 12 years to complete. And then it goes into, this was a project that was done in a different town. And so I'm using that to kind of compare, like, how long would it take for the town that I'm talking about to do it. And so you might have to get a little creative with this based on what topic you're covering. Then what are cost considerations involved? So like, how much is it going to cost and where's the funding going to come from? Once again, you might have to get creative with this because they may not know. So you would have to look at similar projects that have been done somewhere else and kind of use that as a cost estimator. And then same thing with funding. It might have to be, you might have to talk about like, it's going to have to come from the city and they're going to have to raise taxes, or the city can apply, or the area can apply for government grants and loans. Once again, there may not be an entire pathway laid out for you in the peer-reviewed articles, and you may have to go outside of that to try to find your information, and that's completely fine. Just make sure that you cite that, and I'm going to kind of show you where you can put that. All right, and then advantages and disadvantages of the solution. So, obviously the advantages, hopefully it'll fix the environmental issue, but there's disadvantages too, right? There's costs involved. There's always, perhaps people don't want to spend their money on that, or it might introduce a new problem. But most of the time it's going to be cost and the lack of initiative that people want to take to do it. And so make sure you give specific examples for that. And so I'm kind of trying to leave this up here so that way you guys can kind of see what mine looks like. And then don't forget to do number 6. There's always like this big space and everybody thinks that they're done, but there's still another space here. So you're describing the potential environmental consequences of not implementing. So like, what's going to happen if we do nothing? Right? Are people going to get sick? Is the local ecosystem going to be destroyed? Consider wildlife a factor as well. Because a lot of people tend to only focus on like the human issues, but there could be potential issues to the animals in the area, which are a resource as well. The plants as well, right? Like we need plants for oxygen. We need trees for building homes and resource consumption. So make sure you consider those factors as well. Now, if you used any kind of extra articles, websites, whatever, you can list them down here. And the only reason why I suggest doing that is because in your final project, there's going to be an entire section for you to list all the resources that you used. And I can almost guarantee you're going to need to use more than 2 resources for this particular milestone. So listing them here helps you because in your final project, you can just go ahead and copy and paste it over, especially if you go ahead and put like the in-text citations in here for those resources. Right, that's more effort, and and it helps you in the long run whenever you're doing your final project. So just let me know if you have any questions about this. Sometimes this is one that students struggle with because they're like, I can't find all this information in just two peer-reviewed sources. And that's why I always say go further. You're going to need to use more than two probably. You might get lucky and all that information might be in two sources, but majority of my experience is that you have to use more than two. Let me know if you have any questions, and I look forward to seeing your milestone projects.